This is completely unrelated to the laptop, but they just happened to get delivered at the same time, and I'm shooting a short film soon, so I got a slate. But this is the important thing. So this is the ASUS ProArt PX13. I'm going to talk a lot more about it later, but let's just quickly go through what's actually in here. Charging brick. Honestly, this is smaller than I thought it was, so that's good. USB to RJ45 jack, which is nice. The ASUS Pen 2, because this is a touchscreen and it's like a two-in-one. Okay, it is actually a little bit heavier than I expected, but as the title says, this is a laptop for creators from a creator's perspective. So I'm going to test how it is for video editing in particular, because that's the main thing that I need it for, compare it to my desktop, and just sort of general use. But before I actually turn it on and start setting this thing up, let's have a look at the I/O. Now, the first one we have here is the power port, which is just a DC. It's like ASUS like proprietary port, which is kind of annoying. Full-size HDMI, which is great because external monitors, this is only a 13-inch screen, so if I do want a bigger screen, HDMI. And then you also have a USB 4 port, which can do up to 40 gigabits per second, and I'm pretty sure up to about 100 watts of charging of power delivery, but I'm not sure. And then you have a combo microphone headphone jack on the side. So all pretty standard stuff. On the other side here, we've got the power button. We've got a micro SD card reader. Now, I probably will never use this because I don't use micro SD cards. The P16 has a full-size SD card reader, but honestly, I wouldn't even use that because I very rarely even use SD cards. I use CF Express Type A cards for my Sony cameras. So that's kind of pointless anyway. I would just plug my card reader into a USB-C port. You've got a USB-A port, which is always nice just to keep them around. A lot of things still use USB-A. And then you've got another USB 4 port, which is the same as the other side. And that's it when it comes to ports. You've got vents on the back and on the sides. I think there's 2 fans in here. I don't know, I'm not going to bother taking it apart. So I'm going to set this up a little bit and I'll get back to you with more. So that intro that I just shot, unboxing this and doing all that, that was almost 4 months ago. And I wasn't planning on waiting this long to shoot the rest of this video. I was planning on doing like 2 weeks, make a couple of videos on it, and then like finish this video. But I just didn't get around to it. So here's my thoughts after about 4 months of having this laptop. Now, I got this laptop primarily because I needed a mobile workstation. I edit all my videos on my computer here, my desktop, but I was finding that a lot of the times I needed to do work, but I was not at home. If I was staying somewhere else for even one day or a few days, I just couldn't do any of that work unless I was at home. So I needed a machine that could handle the 10-bit 4K files that my Sony cameras shoot, and that I could edit on the go, or not even on the go, but just not at home, so I don't have to take my whole PC with me. It also is a lot more convenient to be able to just take this to do life and business admin stuff as well. But this will be good for not only if I'm staying somewhere else for a night or a week or something like that, but if I go away, like in a couple months, I'm going to New Zealand, and I'm gonna be able to then edit videos while I'm away for several weeks, so then I can continue to make these videos or do other work, whatever I need to do. Also, just the fact that it's portable is super helpful. If you hadn't noticed, this is not the same room that I shot the rest of that other video in. So in between then and now, I've actually moved house. But in that last house, I was actually using this just to do some work, even if it wasn't editing, just anything that I needed to do on a computer, I would just do that in the living room while I'm watching TV. And a few times I even used the TV as my second monitor because, you know, this 13-inch screen is a great screen, but it's not very big. So there were times where I would either cast or directly just connect the TV to this so that I can use that as a second monitor. I also have a pretty decent TV. It's OLED and it's 4K, and you know, of course it's gonna be 4K. But now the real question is it good at what I need it to do? I am a cinematographer. I do cinematography and videography work, and obviously make YouTube videos. So generally, the main thing that I need it to do is edit videos. I edit in DaVinci Resolve right here. This video that you can see there, that was posted a while ago. I think it is quite good for what I need it to do. It is definitely powerful enough. It has the new Ryzen 9 HX something, and it has an NVIDIA RTX 4070 mobile chip in there for a GPU, so it's got plenty of power, and I did actually opt for the 4070 over the 4060 just because, more GPU, more better, right? And when it comes to actually using it, like, let's talk about the ergonomics. It is a 13-inch laptop. It's quite small, it's very portable, it does flip all the way around as I showed earlier, and it can go to portrait mode automatically, so you could just use it as a tablet if you want to. That functionality seems to work pretty well. It does come with this stylus too, which is pretty handy. I opted to go for, like, I replaced the tip in it because it came with a few different tips. I went for the softer one just because it feels better. It's not like, it doesn't feel like I'm scratching anything. It's nice and soft. This works pretty well. You just do need to make sure it stays charged because I didn't use it for a while and then it was dead and then I couldn't use it. So make sure it charges. You just have a USB-C port that pops out right there. But to be fair, I don't really use the stylus all that much. For color grading, it can be helpful rather than, trying to use the trackpad to drag things on dials and color wheels and stuff like that. And of course, if I did any like drawing or writing, then obviously I would use the pen for that. But as for the laptop itself, the keyboard and trackpad are pretty decent. So no complaints, but it's nothing mind-blowing. I have, however, had a small issue with not even necessarily the trackpad, but with the mouse buttons in particular, is when I would click, I'm using the trackpad normally and I would click, on the left side, you'd be a left click, right side would be a right click. Sometimes I'll click on the left side and it'll think I'm right clicking, so I have to click even further on the left side to make that actually work. So I don't know what's up with that. It's not an always thing, but it is sort of it has happened many times, so it's not an uncommon thing to happen. So very slightly annoying, but that's not at all a big deal. And when it comes to the form factor, it is a 13-inch screen, which means that the entire thing, even when, put to sleep, it is very small and light. I can chuck this in any backpack, can put it in my camera bag, and there's no issues. If I got like the P16, then I would potentially have issues fitting it in a camera bag. It's also going to be bigger and heavier and just a little bit more annoying. And the screen is big enough to do a lot of things, but I would prefer a larger one, or ideally a second one. So like I said before about connecting to my TV, or even I'll plug it into a monitor here if for some reason I'm working on this and not my PC right here. I don't know. Or I could even just take, my director's monitor here and plug it straight into that. That could work as a mobile solution. As I mentioned, it has the new Ryzen 9 HX something AI processor and RTX 4070. So it is quite powerful, and I did a quick test. When I originally exported this video, it took 4 minutes and 26 seconds, as you can see there. 4 minutes and 26 seconds, and that is about a 1 gigabyte video. I did the exact same thing. I copied the project file onto an external hard drive, and I plugged it into my PC here, and did the exact same thing. Set the bitrate the same, so the file is, again, just barely under a gigabyte, and it took 5 minutes and 43 seconds. So technically, the laptop is faster than my desktop, which in a way kind of makes sense. Really, the only thing that my PC has going for it over this, when it comes to performance, is that it can supply more power because it has an 850 watt power supply and like full-size desktop GPU and CPU. They've got the same amount of RAM, but this just has much newer components. It's just, 2 generations basically later, more recent than pretty much everything in there. Like in my PC, I've got a Ryzen 9 5900X, whereas this is the Ryzen 9 HX AI one. It's got the NPU and it's gonna be way better and way more efficient. And then I've got a 3070 desktop GPU in my PC, and this is a 4070 laptop chip. So it's not gonna have the same power, but it did the same job faster. So I guess I call that a win for the laptop. When it comes to scrubbing on the timeline, I think it might even edge it out a little bit as well. It is quite smooth. I don't even need to make proxies or anything, which I have basically never done. And this is with 10-bit 422H.264 files straight out of my Sony a7 IV or FX30. And I think it sort of just beats out the timeline smoothness of my PC back there. To be fair, they're both pretty decent. Maybe with different footage that would be harder to unpack. Might be a little bit choppier, and then maybe that's when I need to make proxies, or, maybe upgrade my desktop. But for everything that I've been using it for now, it seems pretty solid. Okay, now what makes this laptop for creators. I think one thing that ASUS would probably say is this little wheel right here on the trackpad, which you activate by swiping this little dot there, and then you can see that light comes on, and then doing this can do stuff. Now, I haven't really set it up to do much. You can see the little wheel here, adjusting stuff. I'm just gonna get rid of that. I don't use it because it kind of feels like more like a gimmick. Maybe editing photos, it might come in handy for some reason if you wanna like, you know, scroll across stuff. Potentially editing videos, maybe you could set it to like scrub the timeline. That could maybe be handy. I think it's kind of a gimmick though, so I don't really use it, but you know, maybe some people would. Definitely nowhere near as good as the jog wheel on the DaVinci Resolve Speed Editor. This thing is the entire reason that I bought this. Apart from getting the software included, but yeah, the wheel. Another thing that makes it for creators is the screen. This screen is a 16:10, 2880 by 1800 resolution OLED screen, and it only goes up to 60 Hertz. All of that kind of makes it for creators and not for gamers. I don't plan on doing any gaming on this. I haven't even gamed on my PC for ages. The fact that it's 16:10 is better, which means you just have a little bit more vertical real estate, which really helps with having either multiple programs open at a time or, you know, editing stuff so you can see more top and bottom. For a 13-inch laptop, 2880 by 1800 is pretty solid for a resolution. Don't really need 4K at this size. The P16, I'm pretty sure, is a 4K display, which makes sense because it's, you know, 3 inches bigger. And the biggest benefit that I think makes this laptop so good, at least for the screen, is that it is OLED. OLED is such a good display technology. My TV is OLED. This is OLED. I wish I had OLED monitors here. It just looks so much better. Black is actually black because they can turn the pixels off, not like IPS. You don't get that IPS glow. And generally colors are just gonna be a lot more accurate than most other monitors. So this is a very color accurate display, which really comes in handy, especially when you're color grading. And like I said, it's 60 Hertz. That's totally fine for me. I wish there were more laptops like this that were higher resolution but lower refresh rate. Even monitors, there seems to be not enough, you know, 4K or even higher monitors that are like 60 Hertz, that all these monitor companies and even laptop companies keep pushing the refresh rates as, oh, it's 240 Hertz or it's 480 Hertz or whatever, but it's like, no, give me like a good looking display at 60 Hertz. That's totally fine. Because like I said, I don't really game anymore. If I was gonna game, I wouldn't game on this laptop. So I like the fact that this machine prioritizes image quality over refresh rate. That being said, the response time of OLED is way faster than pretty much every other panel technology anyway. So you could probably get pretty good refresh rate out of a screen like this if you wanted, but obviously they didn't make it like that. As you can see right here, F12 by default is the button to open the ProArt Creator Hub, which some might consider bloatware. A lot of it is kind of unnecessary, but it does have one good feature that I've been using a lot, and that is the operating mode. Now you can do stuff like this directly in Windows, but this seems to do it a little bit better. To start with, I was actually opening this and leaving it open so I could switch it easily. You don't actually have to have this open to do it. You just have to press Function and F and it'll switch modes. Now, Whisper mode I've been using for pretty much everything except editing. Anything that I need like high power for, I'll switch it usually to performance mode. There's also standard mode. And then you can also have custom modes where you can do stuff yourself. Now, the one issue, as you notice, there was no performance mode there because this is not plugged in. When it is plugged in, you can go into performance mode, it turns the fans up, it turns the power up to everything so you can actually utilize the full performance of this machine. In Whisper mode, for example, it just stays as quiet as it can and it limits the power and the processing by that CPU and GPU that are quite powerful, but a lot of the time you don't need that, so it'll limit the power that it sends to them to keep it nice and cool and quiet. And now you can set up the custom mode like I did, so I can actually turn stuff up even when it's not plugged in, but there is no performance mode, so you have to do it manually. And even if you plug it in via USB-C, it still can't do performance mode. You need to use the actual charger, which unfortunately is proprietary. It's not just like USB-C or anything like that, but it's not that big of a deal to take it with you. And if you do need to, you can still power it via USB-C. And one thing that I think might come in handy at times is powering it via USB-C off a V-mount battery like this. This would basically give this laptop 1 and a bit full charges, because I'm pretty sure it's like a 70 watt hour battery in here, and this is a 99 watt hour battery. Okay, now one of my concerns when I was looking at getting this was, should I maybe get the 16 instead, the P16? And I really wanted to. To be fair, it was significantly more expensive. However, I think I made the right choice. If I went with the P16, there would have been a bigger battery. There's another spot to put an M.2 drive, so I could have had more storage, which would have been helpful to have like a 4 terabyte SSD inside the laptop, whereas right now I use an external drive to actually store stuff because the internal drive in here is only 500 gigs. So all my actual media I put on an external SSD. The P16 also has more I/O, but to be fair, this one has pretty good I/O, so that's not a huge deal for me either. The battery is a bit bigger, so it would last longer / be able to power things a bit more, so you can put more power towards those powerful components. And obviously the biggest benefit would be the screen size. It is higher resolution and 3 inches larger. However, all that combined, I don't know if it makes up for the fact that it's going to be significantly bigger and heavier and harder to travel with. Okay, now to the part where ASUS may not like this, but they're probably not watching this video anyway. The flaws with this. There are a few, and I did mention one little one before with the trackpad, the clicking and stuff. That's a very, very minor one. And a lot of these I actually sort of mentioned a little bit earlier, but the biggest one is that because it is such a powerful but small machine, it gets very hot. In performance mode, if you're editing, you got DaVinci Resolve open, going through 4K files, it's gonna get very warm. You're not gonna wanna sit this on your lap. I haven't even been doing much right now, and the bottom of it is quite warm. So it gets very hot. The fans, quite loud in performance mode. When you turn them way up, they get quite loud. As I mentioned before, the charger is proprietary. You can see right here, that is the DC in. It looks almost like a USB-C, but it is not. And if you want to use performance mode and charge at the fastest rate, you're going to have to use the actual charger that it came with. And as I mentioned, you can power it via USB-C, but I'm pretty sure that's only limited to 100 watts. So that means that you can't use performance mode, and it's not going to charge quite as fast. And as I mentioned, there is no additional M.2 slot inside. So you are limited to the SSD that's in there, or if you were going to replace it, then you'd have to load Windows and do all that stuff on another drive. So what I did is I bought a crucial 4 terabyte drive and put it in this Ugreen enclosure right here. It's currently still plugged into my PC there, so I'm not going to pull it down, but that has been working just fine. 4 terabyte internal M.2 SSD, put in an enclosure, and it works great. And it's actually a bit cheaper than getting, you know, a proper external SSD. And I basically just treat that as part of this. And then obviously if I don't need those files for whatever reason, because I'm like not editing, if I'm doing anything else that I don't need the files for, I just won't plug it in. And then if I am, I'll just need to make sure I have somewhere to put it while I'm using it plugged in here. I know a lot of people will maybe get some like Velcro or something and stick their drive under there. You can get little pouches that can slide in. Maybe I'll do one of those at one point, but so far it's been totally fine just plugging it in and leaving it. So yeah, that was my impressions. I guess I could call it a review of the ASUS ProArt PX13. Really solid laptop. I'm happy that I got it, and I hope that helped inform your decisions if you were looking at this. I did get it on sale. I think it was Black Friday sales at the end of last year, so that was good. I got it for 3,200 Australian dollars. I think it's normally 4,000 Australian dollars, or at least it was then. So yeah, I got a good deal on it. It's been very good. I plan on using it for quite a while. Now I guess I just need to upgrade my desktop to keep up with it. Let me know your thoughts. Do all the other things, and I'll see you next time. Okay, bye.